Billy,
Hi.
how was your last week?
I'm not gonna lie, a little bit rough. I did feel like I had a panic attack actually, which I know we've talked about before.
Yeah, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was on Halloween night actually. I was passing out candy to the trick-or-treaters and I ran out of candy. And I thought I was ready to drive, you know. I said, you know, maybe I could do this. So I felt okay. I felt like it would be all right. I went downstairs, got ready, got in my car, and when I got in my car, I froze. I panicked. I couldn't do it, and I just got these bodily sensations and this feeling of like dread and guilt all at the same time, like something bad was gonna happen. So I basically just ran back in my house, shut the doors, shut the lights off, didn't answer the door, and just sat in my room and watched a movie.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds like it was tough. I know last week we had talked about completing the Anxious Patterns record. Did you happen to use this event for that?
I did actually. I have it right here actually.
Okay.
I did write it down.
How do you feel about going through it?
I think that would be helpful.
Okay, great. So I know you told me a little bit about the triggering event. Was there anything else to that?
It was more just like I just felt like I bit off more than I could chew. Like maybe I wasn't ready for this yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just such a demoralizing feeling to like actually, you know, get in there and feel like I failed, you know, leaving the car after that. So feelings were mostly around a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, and just straight anxiety of like what could happen. You know, maybe I'm gonna hit someone. There's a lot of kids around. It's Halloween, so I felt like I was a little extra nervous, honestly.
Okay. All right. So what were some of the specific thoughts or mental images?
I'm a horrible person. You know, I can't even get these kids their candy on Halloween. You know, the neighbors are gonna hate me now because they're gonna think, you know, look at this guy, doesn't even, you know, give out candy on Halloween. And, you know, I felt like I was having a heart attack, and I'm a failure. And I felt if anyone knew, you know, what was going on with me, they would think I was crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're able to record all of these thoughts. It's really good to have as many details as possible. We've also talked before about cognitive distortions. Do you think that some of these thoughts were some cognitive distortions?
I could see some catastrophizing in there with magnification as well, you know, to do with my feeling like I was having a heart attack, which, you know, I obviously wasn't.
Right, because you've never had a heart attack.
Never had a heart
Right,
attack.
okay.
And a lot of all or nothing thinking too, like thinking, oh, you know, I'm a failure now, you know, like I know that's a bit all or nothing type of thinking.
Right.
And then I definitely jumped to a conclusion about the neighbors, I would say too. Is
Yeah.
what I wrote.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So thinking about like your bodily sensations, can you tell me more about those?
Yeah, I was getting very like hot. My chest was very tight. I felt really hard to breathe as well. I was pouring sweat. Like I felt like I was having a heart attack basically.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry about that. What would you rate the intensity of those bodily sensations?
To me, it felt like a 10. Like I
Okay.
was basically incapacitated just from those bodily sensations.
Okay, and then what about the intensity of the anxiety part?
It was a little lower, but still high. I'd say about a 9.
Okay, all right, that's good. All right, so your anxiety response. So, you know, you were at a 10 and you had left the car. So what did you do to like diminish this anxiety or avoid the situation?
I did notice that I did some safety behaviors. I did run back in the house to avoid it, to try to avoid having the panic attack, which I had it anyways, and just getting stuck in my car for a little while too. Like for a little bit, I couldn't even leave the car, honestly.
Okay. I know you've mentioned before about, you know, your house being kind of one of your safety behaviors. When you go into your house, do you know, you're always like getting a sensation of like, you know, comfort and safety?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't bring the anxiety down all the way, I do notice it'll bring it down somewhat when I do that.
Okay, well, that's good. What about any other behaviors? Was there anything else?
I did put a movie on as well, locked myself in my bedroom obviously, shut off all the lights like I said, and just if the doorbell rang I just wouldn't even get up to look.
Okay, and eventually the anxiety came down and the bodily sensations diminished.
After a while, yes.
Okay, All right, so now thinking about the outcome. So what was the initial outcome to your anxious response?
I mean, I would say it's the panic attack, basically. Just that unsteady feeling of just almost having a heart attack.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Do you see any long-term outcomes or consequences from this?
One of the consequences I could think of is I didn't get any more trick-or-treaters that night, you know? I mean, they still came, but I, wasn't answering the door, and I didn't have candy to give to them as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
yeah.
And what are your thoughts and emotions about this outcome?
I'm not gonna lie, I feel a bit defeated, disappointed, especially in myself, for giving in like I gave in. I feel sad that I couldn't get these kids a candy as well. I feel a little angry as well, like almost like, people have it better than me, like they can drive and I can't, like, it's tough overall. I almost feel like I'm incompetent, honestly, because of this, and I may never be able to drive by myself like most other people can.
Okay, I know we've talked about behavioral exposure before, but the goal with these behavioral exposure, experiments is that the more you're facing an avoided or anxiety-provoking situation, the more that you can confront it. So I know your end goal is to be able to drive and to be able to drive independently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we can do, if you're willing to do this, I have a blank form, and what it is it's a hierarchy of feared situations for graded exposure.
Okay.
And so basically, we'll come up with some of the feared situations that are going to build up to the big one, which is driving independently. We'll rate your anxiety before, and then we'll rank them. So like first step, second, third, and we'll go down.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about some safety behaviors to avoid. And then we can talk about post-anxiety with safety behavior and post-anxiety without safety behavior.
Yeah.
So you're willing to do that?
Yeah, that sounds good. We've mentioned this a few times, so I think this will be a good thing to do.
Okay, so to start, what do you think a good first step would be?
So this would be the easiest one.
Yes, the least anxiety provoking.
I'd say probably just sitting in my car, honestly, because
Okay.
I did know I had anxiety from that. But I think if I knew I wasn't going to drive after that, like I did on that night, that would be kind of a lower level on the hierarchy, I would say.
Okay, and to make this goal more specific, what about for a certain amount of time? Sitting in a car
5 minutes, maybe?
5 minutes? You think that that's doable for a first step?
Yes.
Okay. What do you think your pre-anxiety about this would be?
Honestly, maybe that I would drive and hit someone, like just, lose control and end up just saying, oh, I'm gonna drive and hit someone. I think that would be a concern of mine.
Okay, and what would you rate your anxiety 1 to 10 for before doing this?
Just thinking about it, about a 5.
Okay,
Yeah, 5 to 6.
all right. And what would be some safety behaviors to avoid?
So one thing I've noticed I do sometimes is I'll almost tape myself sometimes to make sure I can look back and say, oh, I know I didn't do anything wrong. So maybe like taping myself, honestly, like literally taking my camera and taping myself so I know I didn't do anything,
Okay, so avoiding, keep staring at the rear view mirror.
That would
Is that
be,
what you're saying? Okay, what about, I know you were talking about fleeing into your house. Do you think that that might be another thing you'd be tempted to do?
Yeah, if I got super nervous, I could see myself fleeing inside, yeah.
Okay, and what do you think a good second step would be?
I'm thinking maybe actually sitting in the car, but not leaving it off, like actually turning the car on.
Okay,
Yeah.
and do you want to do that same 5 minutes?
Yeah, I think that would be good actually.
Okay, so that will be our step 2. And what do you think your pre-anxiety 0 to 10 would be with this?
For that one, it would be a little higher, I would say. Maybe like a 7, 6 or 7, I would say.
Okay. Do you think there'd be any different safety behaviors for this, or kind of the same ones?
Let me think. I think one of my safety behaviors for this one might actually be to pull the keys out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So I don't,
think about.
so I don't have any chance of the car rolling on me or moving.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. What about a third step?
Actually driving, but not alone. I think maybe with someone.
Okay.
Maybe like you, like a therapist, or my wife or something.
Okay. We could do a third step of us driving together.
Okay.
How long would you like to drive for?
Maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
I think that would be a good start.
All right. And what about pre-anxiety before this?
Well, that one's like an 8.
An 8? Okay. And then any other different safety behaviors?
Probably just asking you for reassurance that I am driving okay and nothing bad has happened.
Okay. All right. All right. Any more?
I guess driving alone. would
All
be
right.
yeah, and that's gonna be a 10 for me.
Okay. And what about safety behaviors there?
Oh, there's a lot of them. Probably checking my rear view mirror, driving back to make sure nothing bad has happened.
Oh, okay.
Maybe even checking police reports, or if anyone is in the hospital that got hit and run.
Okay. While you're driving?
It would probably be later, if the anxiety just built up so much.
Okay.
And then another one I notice I do sometimes is I'll ruminate about it and just try to remember if I did anything bad, and that could be hit or miss.
Okay. What about if you're driving alone, pulling over, getting out of the car? Do you think that could be a safety behavior?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. I've done that.
Okay. I think this looks pretty good. Do you think you would add anything or
No,
change?
That's it for me. Yeah, that's
All right.
everything I said.
All right. So over the next few sessions, we'll start to incorporate these, and we'll see how you do. And if we need to go back and repeat one more time, we can. If we need to modify them, we can.
Okay.
How does that sound?
That sounds good to me.
All
I
right.
appreciate this.
All right. I'll see you next week. All right. Hi, Billy.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Nervous.
Nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. You've done really well with the other steps of the hierarchy. So now we're on your third ranked exposure,
Yeah.
and the last one's driving independently.
Yes.
So we're gonna fill out this exposure tracking form beforehand, during a little bit, and then after.
Okay.
So to start, I know you're completing this exposure with me. What are some safety behaviors to avoid?
Some safety behaviors I would like to avoid is checking my rear view mirror would be a big one.
Okay.
Yeah. A few of the other ones would be kind of just not obviously getting out of my car to check for if anyone had been hit. I don't want to drive back to check anything. Ruminate. I know rumination's a big one for me as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. How's your anxiety level right now?
It's about an 8.
Before we do this. Okay.
Yeah,
An
it's
8?
pretty high.
Are you having any negative automatic thoughts or just any thoughts in general?
I mean, I am afraid I'm gonna fail. I'm afraid I'm not gonna be able to do this. I wish I wasn't like this, but that's just what's coming up right now. The thoughts of guilt and shame and failure.
Okay. All right. And another thing you can remind yourself, we already did the other two and you did great. We're sitting in the car right now with the car on.
Yeah.
So we're almost ready to go. What is your prediction for the outcome of this exposure?
I predict I will be anxious, but I'm trying to, believe myself as best as I can, and I believe I will be able to do it. It'll be hard, but I based off the other two things I've done on the hierarchy list, I feel slightly more confident now.
That's awesome. That's really great. So what about any potential problems or obstacles? Do you think we're gonna run into anything?
I do worry that I will have a panic attack again and not be able to drive, basically, because I'll have that, that heart attack feeling, pain in my chest and sweatiness, dizziness.
Okay. And what are you gonna do if you start feeling these symptoms come on?
So I know we had talked about the breathing, relaxation techniques that we had worked on. I would think I would try that. I would also think, we've talked about this before. I've never had a heart attack, and I kind of just have to remember my history, and that panic attacks, like you said, they eventually go away.
Right.
Like kind of like a wave. You gotta just ride it.
Yep. The symptoms only last for so long and they're not dangerous. What about a second potential problem or obstacle?
Kind of like what happened initially when I just sat in my car on Halloween. I'd be nervous that I would just flee the situation and kind of just, leave the car. I want to go now.
Right. And so what are you going to do if you get that urge to flee?
Again, I want to focus on the relaxation techniques that we had talked about. Keeping in mind that I know we've talked about my future self will thank me for sitting with the anxiety now rather than later. And the breathing techniques again.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're only doing this for 5 minutes, so that's something you can remind yourself too. We're not doing this for a long time. What about one last potential problem or obstacle?
Checking the rear views excessively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I definitely agree. All right. Are you ready to do this?
Yeah, I think
All
I'm
right.
ready.
Let's go.
Okay.
Okay. So we've been driving for about 2 or 3 minutes. We have about 2 minutes left. How are you feeling right now?
Pretty anxious. I almost just want to go back. I don't know if I could do this much longer. I really feel like I'm having a heart attack. I mean, what if I hit someone because I'm having a heart attack? How can I escape if I'm driving and in control of the car and I lose control of the car and I don't see a person there? What if I hit them? I'm just very nervous right now.
Okay. What are some of the things we could talk about that you could try?
Maybe some breathing. I don't think that would be a bad idea. Maybe.
Yeah, just take a second.
I'm trying not to look in my rearview mirror.
Well, good. That's good.
Okay.
All right. How are you feeling right now in the moment?
I'm still nervous, but I feel a little calmer now, actually. A little
Okay.
bit, yeah.
What would you rate your anxiety? 1 to 10.
Maybe like a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts right now in the moment?
Right now I'm still nervous. I still feel, what if something happens? What if something already happened and I didn't realize it? But I'm trying to just sit with it, let it be there, and not really analyze it at the moment, because it doesn't, I know that's not helpful to do, as we've talked about.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, so we're finishing our drive now, so you can go park,
Okay.
and then let's debrief about this a little bit.
All right.
So, okay, continuing on with our exposure tracking form. So what was the outcome of this exposure? So the effectiveness, safety behaviors, things like that.
I mean, I didn't do any safety behaviors, and I thought the exposure was effective, honestly. I drove the whole 5 minutes. I didn't think, there was a little while there, I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, honestly. Having my therapist there was really important. You really helped me rationalize and relax. I was able to gain more confidence, and I feel like possibly I could do this independently,
Good. I'm so glad. This was a really great outcome. How are you feeling post anxiety?
Honestly, it's pretty down there. I'd say maybe even less than a 5, maybe like a 4.
That's great. And what about some post thoughts?
I'm actually kind of proud of myself,
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. And I haven't felt that in a long time.
That's awesome.
I feel like, not that I'm going to run out and be driving everywhere, but it's just, I can do this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another step in the process. So, thoughts and feelings to repeat exposure or move on to the next feared situation on the hierarchy? What are you thinking?
I'd probably want to repeat this once or twice more, and
Okay.
then as I did with the other exposures that I did a few times, and then I think I would be ready after that.
Okay, that's awesome.
All right.
All right. So we'll meet again next week
Sounds good.
and we'll try this again.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.